Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss about the rising concern of China has got a developing country status and it is given by WTO. Many countries have raised concern over this issue. Earlier, if we see in 2019, the South Korean government declared itself that it does not want anything benefits from being a developing country. So it has given itself a tag as developed nation. If you see now, this developing country status is not given by WTO, then it is the countries who are giving by themselves as developing country or developed country. WTO does not define any country as developed and developing country status. Therefore, the countries are free to announce themselves whether they are developed or developing. However, other countries can challenge this decision. Why now China is claiming this developing country status? Because this developing country status has many benefits. Like if a country is developed, then they have to follow strict rules and regulations in terms of fair and trade agreement and special differential treatment also. That is, if a nation is developing, so it can provide leverage to its country people, or it can provide subsidies so that the economy is developed. For example, let us take in India, so much of subsidies is given to the sugar factory, sugar industries, and sugar mill. So this this is a concern raised by many other countries where they also try to export the sugar because of providing the subsidies by Indian government. The sugar which we export, the if you see the price of it is less compared to the other countries. So the other countries are unable to sell their sugar because their sugar price is much higher compared to India. So if a nation is a developing nation, it can provide subsidies to the people and can improve its economy. It does not have to follow stringent rules regarding the trade. This is one benefit of developing nation. Now, if we see WTO does not have any guidelines to say guidelines to say whether the country is developed or not developed. But it has the World Bank has classified the world economies into four groups, that is low middle, upper middle, and high income countries. So now this classification is based on the gross national income per capita of the country, and this is on based on this. If you see, the China comes under upper middle class and India comes in lower middle class. So many countries say that the China, instead of taking the leadership, it is refraining itself and it wants to get a developing status and improve and develop its trade rather than being a declared itself as developed nation. Now, what are the objectives of WTO? It wants a free and fair treatment. That is, if you see many nations, if we are exporting some products, let us say agriculture, then it restricts that this much of agriculture product only should be sold, and it has various sanitary and it imposes various sanitary impositions and tariffs and barriers. So this restricts any country to export. So WTO has to for this free and fair trade, it has recommended two things, that is most favored nation (MFN) and national treatment. Now, what is this most favored nations? Most favored nation is that where the country which are in WTO, they should give equal treatment to the countries who are all in WTO. For example, let us say India. Now, India and Sri Lanka. Now, in when Sri Lanka exports its products to India, it imposes only 20% of tax. Whereas when Bhutan exports to India, sorry, whereas if other nations, if we say other nations exports and it imposes 10% of trade. In that case, if you see, the Sri Lankan government can file file a case, or it can raise a concern or issue saying that Sri Lanka is not treated properly. It is not having proper treatment. If we this is that is called as most favored nation. And national if you see the live example, most of the products which are exported to USA from India, the USA imposes 15% of trade barrier, whereas other nations, if let us say Bhutan exports to the USA, then it imposes only 5% of tax. So this is called as, whereas the World Trade Organization says that the USA should impose equal trade tax, should not differentiate any one of its country, whether it is Bangladesh or India or any other nation. The next we can say the national treatment. National treatment is nothing but, let us say, for example, if Sri Lanka exports food products to India, some food products to India, and if you see even our Indians, if they are selling something in our Indian market, let's say some food products, then in that case, Sri Lanka is imposed 20% of duty, and as well as when it is in the market, it imposes another 20% of sale tax. Whereas for the Indians who are selling in Indian markets, it imposes only 10% of tax. So Sri Lanka can uh, raise a concern in India saying that it is not treating equally, and it should treat equally according to WTO objectives. That is, Sri Lanka can file a case on India saying that it is impartial treatment towards Sri Lanka, as it is paying not only 20% of custom trade as well as duty trade, but also sales tax when it comes to Indian market. That means whether it is local product or a foreign product, when it comes in the market, it should be treated equally. It should impose the same amount of tax, whether it is local or Sri Lanka, or whether it is some other foreign country. This is called as national treatment. Now, for the exceptions are that these two things can be exempted. That is, when if it is a fair trade agreement, when two countries have fair trade agreement, that is multilateral treaty. If you see many countries nowadays, they are making an agreement as fair trade agreement. That is they are assigning, two countries are signing, or many countries are signing fair trade agreement. That is, those two countries will exchange product, but at a very less tax. Duty import tax will be very less. So if we see even the whatever the RCP and other trade organizations or multilateral treaty, whatever we have, they they make an agreement on fair trade agreement on between two three nations where they export or import the products at a very less tax. This is one exception for this MFN and national treatment. Other exception is LDC, that is least developed country. If a country is least developed country, then they can impose less tax. Whereas if the country is developed country, then they can impose a heavy tax on that particular country products if it is exported or imported. Now, let us know more about it. That is, the China's what is the concern? Why the many countries are concerned about this issue? If we see the China, the per capita income has raised to an upper middle income country. Many nations say that China has already the GDP in 21 is much higher compared to other countries. The per capita income in China is around 10,435 US dollar in 2020, whereas if you see India, it was just US dollar 1,928. So it is not a good idea to claim China as a developing nation where it comes as upper middle class, that is developed nation. And it has also said that because of this tags or developing nation status, they say that China is unfairly using this status in claiming benefits and and taking advantages of this status. Many nations like Europe and USA, Australia have also objected China's claim on developing country status. They say that Bangladesh has developed itself from least developed country as the GDP has increased and it has surpassed the India. But if Bangladesh is only just as a small nation, if it has surpassed the GDP, just it is going to lose the least developed country status, then why China should claim this developing country status? And they also say that it is due to this differential treatment. That is, differential treatment is nothing but, one second. The the differential treatment is nothing but when a country is developing and poor countries, they get longer time to implement any policies. They don't have to be stringent and they can take longer time, and this safeguards the trade interest of the particular country. And this is the main reason, actually, according to WTO, why this differential treatment should be considered, because many countries, if you see, they are not all equal in economies. That is, there are some the least developed countries, some are developing countries, some are very developed. So when a least when we see the developed country, they have all the equipments and if you see technical things, and they have developed themselves, their economy has developed in all industries, that is in manufacturing everywhere. Whereas if it is developing or least developed countries, they do not have much facilities and their economy is not so good and it will take a long time for them to develop, and it is very difficult for them to become a developed nation, as how much they cannot immediately become in a year a developed nation, so it will take a long time. This is called as differential treatment. So according to WTO, a LDC country or developed country should be given more time to develop their economies. So China wants to take advantage of this thing and it wants to have this developing nation so that it will develop its economy more. And if we know, China has taken advantage of this and developed itself already. And if you see, most of the Chinese products are in the market with a low price compared to the other nations. The whole market is flooded with China products as it is available in cheap, and other nations are unable to compete this price. So the whole thing is now the WTO should take a stand. It should define whether what is the criteria to be a developing nation or a developed nation, and it should also strengthen its trading system. It should adopt a procedure where a nation can keep its interest in mind and withdraws the strategies to claim SNDT benefits. So that's all for today, friends. If you like it, please share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.